Oh! Oh! Yeah! Ah! Yeah, that hurts my hand. I've done that a lot of times. Welcome to That's Good Sports. I'm Brandon. It's finally appropriate to do a 2019 season prediction episode. Now that teams have drafted and free agency'd, Perna, I will evaluate the entire AFC West like I did last year, and once I finish there, I'll move on to teams that I find interesting. Maybe the Rams, maybe the Cardinals, Eagles, Packers, Giants, Colts, basically any team, not the Patriots. Today is a focus on the Denver Broncos offseason. Did the Broncos improve, and if so, by how much, and how do they compare to the rest of the AFC West? Last year, Denver finished with a record of 6-10. Will they break their 3-year slump of mediocrity, hovering just above craptorious, and finish with a winning record? Or will the ghosts of Vance Joseph and Kyle Sloter haunt them until John Elway performs a sacrificial seance to the football gods? Sorry, Jason Elam, you're going to have to give Elway another one of your toes for his witch's brew, just like you did in 2015. That's good sports. Please, if you don't want to end up talking like this, subscribe. Also, this episode is sponsored by Manscaped. What is man's greatest fear? Commitment? No. It's sharp objects close to his genitals. And that's why I've partnered with Manscaped as a sponsor of this show. Manscaped.com is the only men's brand dedicated to below-the-waist grooming and hygiene. You know what they say, the shorter the bushes, the bigger the tree looks. The Manscaped trimmers have been designed by aerospace engineers to guarantee they will not nick or cut your man parts when you're trimming. That is literally the most important thing aerospace engineers have ever done. This is me getting my chest hair under control. Look at the before and after. Perfect. With the amount of body hair I have, there's never been a product I have been more qualified to discuss than Manscaped.com's trimmers. Use my promo code SPORT20 for 20% off your order, plus a free gift, plus free shipping. SPORT20, link in the description, Manscaped.com. Do it. Time to go back into time. The Broncos started off hot last season, winning 2 close games at home before very predictably falling apart for the second season in a row under alleged head coach Vance Joseph. Denver was able to rebound in the middle of the season, winning 3 games in a row against the Chargers, Steelers, and Bengals, but got tripped up in San Francisco like most bicurious teams and ultimately lost their last 4 games to finish 6-10, missing the playoffs for the 3rd straight season. One reason Denver may have stumbled was because Chris Harris karate chopped Larry Fitzgerald's mangoes and bananas.
The pass incomplete. Von Miller was in the
Luckily, he was able to receive emergency surgery at the University of Phoenix, where they completely rearranged his dick and balls and gave it a Cardi B approved facelift. But the season wasn't a total waste. Denver found a new superstar running back in Phillip, I'm definitely from Colorado, Lindsay. He broke the 1,000-yard rushing mark before breaking his hand and also before breaking out of his parents' basement. Calcium supplements have been added to the Broncos' meal plan this season in the cafeteria, as Lindsay, Matt Paradis, and Chris Harris all broke bones last season. Now, I think the obvious thing to say here is that the Broncos' 3 biggest problems in 2018 were bad coaching, poor QB play, and mid to late season significant injuries. If one of those 3 things went differently, I believe the Broncos would have finished with a 500 record. If 2 of those things went better, they could have competed for the playoffs. But if all 3 of those things were good, they would have disappeared in a team plane crash like in Lost, because an elite Vance Joseph and an elite Case Keenum in this world is a paradox that would have been rectified by God himself immediately. Now let's refresh some of the key losses with a shitty key graphic. Truth be told, this list is still up in the air because we don't know the fate of Chris Harris Jr. yet. The Broncos did lose corners in Bradley Roby and Tremaine Brock and quarterback Case Keenum, but given how they looked last year, that could end up being addition by subtraction. We're already familiar with the fact that Demaryius Thomas is gone via trade, but it does sting a little bit more knowing that he's a Patriot now. One major loss, of course, was center Matt Paradis, who they were already missing for the second half of 2018 with a leg more fractured than the Broncos' ownership situation. I do wish Shaq Barrett was still a Bronco. Fangio would have loved him. Shane Ray, Jared Valdir, Max Garcia, Domata Pecco, Brandon Marshall, and Darian Stewart all gone. Matt Lacoste signed with New England, so he was never a Bronco according to my updated records. No Lacoste, no loss. That's what I always say. Key additions, Q graphic. Head coach Vic Fangio is the most important move John Elway made this offseason. All other NFL franchises zigged, looking for the next Sean McVay, and John Elway zagged ziggity zooged, finding himself a cunning hard ass who is closer to his grave than ever ordering avocado toast at a Capital One cafe. Mike Munchak for the offensive line coaching job gives me real hope for the first time in 4 to 5 years where I feel good about the offense in the trenches. The Broncos threw around a solid chunk of change this offseason and addressed the secondary by adding longtime Texans defensive back Kareem Jackson, who can play both corner and safety, as well as Bryce Callahan, who will play opposite Chris Harris Jr., I hope. God, I hope. They also gave Juwan James the biggest offensive lineman contract in history, hoping that he can be the one to end our collective nightmare at right tackle. Please, Obi-Juwan, you are our only hope, especially since Roby-Juwan Bradley didn't live up to expectations after Aqib Talib left. No Star Wars wordplay for Aqib Talib. His name sounds like George Lucas already invented it. Do you think it's strange that I have talked about a new coach, a new tackle, and a couple pieces to the secondary before uttering the words Joe Flacco? Well, you should, because he's the fucking quarterback. He's my quarterback. Moving on from Case Keenum was the easiest decision John Elway has ever made, and that includes not playing baseball and handing the rock to Terrell Davis in the fourth quarter of Super Bowl 32. That's how underwhelming and disappointing Case Keenum was. However, at this point in his career, I'm not sure how much better Joe Flacco is than Case Keenum. We do know he's entering his prime, though, much like a 34-year-old bottle of whiskey you pretend to like because it costs $400. I like my whiskey like I like my women, tan, cheap, and aged at least 20 years. I have to say that. I do think the Flaccume is an upgrade. Chad Kelly reference. I just can't quantify it yet, though. Flacco's like when you pay an extra $2 to have sauteed mushrooms added to your steak. Does it really make the steak better? Sure, a little bit, but some people would argue you never put mushrooms on a steak, and others might say it doesn't matter what you garnish a steak with. Why the fuck are you ordering a steak at Dave & Buster's? Think about it. In terms of the draft, I think a fair, unbiased assessment is to give the Broncos an arbitrary grade of a B, which of course stands for Booyah, mother lovers! We're about to be back on top of the AFC West. I covered the draft in depth in this video, so check that out if you want to know more about the Broncos draft. To simplify, Noah Fant's ceiling is George Kittle, Dalton Reisner will be a stud on the line, and Draymond Jones and Justin Hollins could be mid-round gems in Fangio's defense. CU wide receiver Juwan Winfrey has been humbled by problems early in his college career, which may have given him the maturity to be a good NFL player quicker than expected. And of course, if Joe Flacco isn't his usual elite self, the Broncos got great value at pick 42 with Missouri quarterback Drew Lock, who proved his fearlessness already by proudly waving a Broncos flag at his home in Kansas City, which doesn't sound that crazy until you find out that his next door neighbor is Tyreek Hill. Ideally, Lock will sit a year, but Flacco missed time with the back injury last year, and if I was a betting man, which I might be on my upcoming trip to Las Vegas, I'd say Lock gets at least a start at some point this year. One thing I know for sure is you never fully recover from a back injury, just like you can never outrun student loan debt. Now, you don't really want to call your first round draft pick an X factor, but that's what Noah Fant is. His success depends on a good quarterback and an understanding of a new offense. If those two things click, he could make the Broncos offense very, very competitive in 2019. 3 second-year offensive players we need to see make a leap in 2019 are Courtland Sutton, Deshaun Hamilton at the wide receiver positions, and of course, Royce Freeman carrying the rock. A surprise player may be undrafted free agent corner Elijah Holder, who the Broncos gave a $30,000 signing bonus to. That's double what they gave Phillip Lindsay last year, and Holder's not even from fucking Colorado. He's just a 6'2" corner from Stanford who, due to 2018 injuries, went from being once considered a top corner entering the draft to not being drafted at all. He did not perform well at the Combine, which may ultimately benefit the Broncos if he's good. I wanted Denver to draft a corner, but that didn't happen. So we're left with watching Isaac Yiadom, AAFer Devontae Bosby, and Elijah Holder battle it out to become a fourth corner, assuming Strap Harris returns. Please, Strap Harris returns. Please, Strap Harris returns. So, my prediction for the 2019 season for the Broncos: 8-8, 9-7. If you're not excited about Flacco, it's because he averages about 19 touchdowns and 12 interceptions per season. Keenum, of course, had 18 touchdowns and 15 picks last year. The three-headed monster of Osweiler, Lynch, and Simeon combined for 20 touchdowns and 21 picks in 2017, and Simeon had 18 touchdowns and 10 picks in 2016. If Flacco feels like more of the same to you, I agree. The reason there is hope, though, is because of Rich Scangarello and the similarities to the Kubiak offensive scheme he brings back to Denver, an offense in which Joe Flacco had the best statistical year of his 11-year career. That said, Scangarello is a first-time OC, so who the hell knows? My prediction is the offense will be better. I will be cautious and say just a little bit better, with the potential to be like Jake Plummer 2005 level offense good. Again, I can't assume Scangarello is any good until it is proven on the field. If Chris Harris does indeed return, I would almost guarantee the defense returns to top 10 form in 2019. That's where we should be really excited. They weren't terrible last year. They just had a few really bad games with no solution at corner and rarely any help from the offense. Defenders were more out of place than Gronk at a spelling bee. I think Bradley Chubb will be more effective year 2. Von Miller is always elite. I like Shelby Harris in a starting role on the defensive line. Draymond Jones could make an impact right away, and if Josie Jewell or one of the talented depth linebackers like Keyshawn Bierria, special team standout Joe Jones, AJ Johnson, or the return of Dakota Watson don't excel with Fangio, they won't anywhere ever. Biggest improvement will be seeing players where they're supposed to be and much better tackling. I think a breakout player candidate is Josie Jewell. Given Vic Fangio's track record with linebackers, that is the easiest prediction I've ever made in my life. I do think it's easy to assume the linebackers will perform better for Don Fangio, who will have them sleeping with the fishes if they don't. If you've ever had sex with a fish, you know what kind of motivation that sort of threat provides. The safeties should be in a better position to say stop, George Kittle from lighting them up with 210-yard performances. Kittle feasted on the AFC West last year, by the way. 3 of his 400-plus yard games came against Denver, Oakland, and the Chargers. All teams with terrible inside linebacker play against tight ends. Denver will not be in that category again, that's my prediction, and may themselves exploit that weakness with Noah Fant. It's always easy to think your team improved during the offseason. And in the NFL, that can actually be true for any franchise. That's what makes the NFL better than Frisbee golf. And Denver made some pretty drastic changes, and unlike when they hired Vance Joseph, it feels like the changes are trending in the correct direction. One direction, up. Joe Flacco, with the running game and good protection, could be very effective. Again, 8-8 to probably at best 10-6. My biggest question marks, which is a PC way of saying the shit we just can't know right now, are, will Joe Flacco actually be an upgrade over Case Keenum? Can Emmanuel Sanders bounce back from an Achilles tear? His explosiveness will be needed for the Broncos offense to excel. And if he does lose a step, will Deshaun Hamilton be ready to step up? Based on this tweet from Sanders, I'd say he's ready. Okay, fine, here he is running pretty fast. Will any of the tight ends stay healthy? And will Noah Fant live up to first-round expectations? Will Jawan James finally solidify the right tackle position? And finally, can Vic Fangio run an elite defense and head coach at the same time with first-time coordinators Ed Donatel and Rick Skangi at offense and defensive coordinator? Those are the big questions. We won't know till the season starts. But I am excited for the Broncos season. I am pretty sure of it. May is a good time to be excited about it. Thanks for watching another episode of That's Good Sports. Please subscribe here on YouTube. I'm on Twitter, Instagram. If you want to tweet and talk football shit there, you can. Also give @WilKey6 a follow. He helps me write all this football stuff. And instead of paying him fairly, I say I will try to get you more Twitter followers.